My guest on Front Row Rugby today is Springbok legend, former loose forward Tim Dlulane. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for inviting me, and it's great. I'm looking forward to this interview, and I think I view every day as an opportunity, and thank you for this opportunity. And many things can come out of this.
Tim, before we get started with our conversation, here's this week's trivia question. Who captained the Springboks in the first test against New Zealand in 1994? If you know the answer to the question, you can put it down in the comment section. But what we will do is find out if Tim knows the answer to that question at the end of our conversation. Tim, let's get going, and we'll begin in 2004. How did it feel for you to be selected for the Springboks to go on that end-of-year tour in 2004?
Yeah, I think, Peter, before this this interview, I kind of saying, well, let me put myself in that moment. And I was at the Pumas, enjoying my rugby. Mpumalanga Pumas, if you've got an understanding of it, just outside Pretoria. It was about an hour away from Pretoria, and based in the University of Pretoria, playing rugby, enjoying my rugby. And actually, I wasn't expecting the call, and I think that's how I can be honestly on it. I was just trying to find my feet in professional rugby, find my feet in the Currie Cup. And we have a wonderful team as the Pumas. I think that's what made me to make the India tour 2004, and which is 18 years ago. And then it's like yesterday when I think of it. And it comes as a surprise, a good surprise, because as a player, you just want to be a Springbok. You just want to represent your country. And then on our part was that I knew that we were having outstanding team. I think the Lucies for the Pumas, Jacques Bottas, Gerard Foslo, myself, and then knowing that if you can remember, I think we beat the Sharks, we beat Lions, we beat I think the Cheetahs, and unfortunately we didn't manage to beat Bulls and Western Province. But then being a small union and doing that and having, I think we were closer to qualifying the top 4 in the Currie Cup. So I knew I was my top performing as an athlete, and then we were having a solid team, as solid forwards, and I think that was what put me in that team, knowing that I was performing one of the best players, one of the best number 6 in the country, where I knew that there was Soli, there was Skalkberger, and then Jacques from the Bulls. And then, may his soul rest in peace, and Pedro Fernando. So those are the guys that I knew that they were there, they were in line, and then Luke Watson was also there. So it came surprisingly, but good surprise.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit the like button?
So you're in Wales, you're in Cardiff, it's the week of that first test of the end-of-year tour against the Welsh. You're selected for the matchday squad. Did you expect to be in that matchday squad? Was there any kind of conversation that you had with Jake White before the announcement?
Yeah, I think I must say thank you to Jake for giving the opportunity, first of all, because as I said, that every day is an opportunity. I think for Jake, Peter, it's understanding that he needed players to build for the 2007 World Cup. So I think on my side, I knew that I had to put up my head and to make it, because you want to play the World Cup. Yes, I'm selected. And I must be honest, I don't want to, I think Jake thought in the match, I think where he also spoke about it, he thought in the match there was just 5 minutes left, and he just want to take off the nerves from myself being in the bench. Then the second game will be better. Then I ended up playing 10 minutes, which was, more than the coach has planned, and then the time was extended. So on my part was that, Tim, it's something that you lived for, and I'll take you back, Peter, in when I was watching Rugby World Cup 1995, seeing Madiba, the former president, wearing number 6, and I was at home in rural Transkei. And in Ellis Park, when Madiba was lifting up that World Cup trophy with François Pinault, saying, well, I want to be there. I want to be there one day because rugby has the ability to unite the nation. I want to be that person. And I was sitting there and being a Royal Trans guy, I didn't know how to play rugby. I was 14 years old. And then there was one player in the world, well, a black player there, which was Chester Williams. And so, well, everybody was talking about Chester. And, well, I want to be that Chester, and in my time, and let me get to play rugby. So it was a dream come true, and a life-changing dream, if I can put it to you. And then on my side, when Jake saying, "This is the moment, Tim, you're going up," I said, "Well, Tim, you're living your dream. Realize it." And and when I won't lie to you, it's like it was that first match. Thinking about it, I told anybody, only you, Peter. It was like a wave. You know, when you are tumbled by the wave, so quickly turned around. I was like, shit. I'm trying to reach my feet, and then now the game is over. It's like, Tim, what have you done? Well, that was the first test. Maybe others are coming. So you also want to give yourself a chance, but not to be too hard. But first of all, you are saying you lived your dream. And now it's saying keep on dreaming to live more games, being more, perform more to be selected. But then also coming into Jake, and then Jake knew that there were performance targets set by government. So, well, Springbok must transform. Springbok must have black players. And Jake, bought in that plan, which I appreciate. And it's also being a Springbok player and saying, where do we come from as a country? But I want to get there and perform. Yes, I'm a black player, and I'm representing the Rainbow Nation, same as other players. But it's up to me to prove myself. I'm good enough to be in the one of the most cherished brand, if I can put it, Springbok brand, and then association on that professional setup. So it was a matter of a mix of emotion, but then understanding that, Tim, you are living your dream. But then prove it yourself first. That are you good enough to be here? And as I say, it was like a wave, and it tumbled to me, and then it was over. Tried to get in my feet, but then say, well, hopefully Jack will give him another chance. So it's something that as much as we want to be there, but you have to prove it to yourself that were you good enough. I believe in the Currie Cup was good enough to be selected, but then to be a Springbok from the opportunities that would have been given, and then I'll come back and say, well, I was good enough. So it was just unfortunate to say that 10 minutes could be more, and unfortunately there was Solly Liga on the side, and then we were playing. Was a great performer as well. And may his soul rest in peace, because I knew that it's either myself or Solly, when both number 6 were also black, and then in that NDA tour to come back, because I can think of it, we were about 8 players of color, and those players of color, like it or not, I'm gonna just come in. They had to put their hands up to be part of the World Cup that Jake won the World Cup with in 2007. So 2004, building up 4 years, and Jake won the World Cup 2000. So it was a privilege to be coached to him, and then it was a privilege as well to share his dream, his goal, his vision, and to that taste of professionalism. I think on my side, it changed my life.
It's Saturday, South Africa versus Wales. It's match day. You wake up in the morning. How nervous were you feeling?
Well, Peter, I think the guys which were there in that team remember, and I was just the guy who came in from the Pumas, and then I was nervous. And actually, it's something which I told anybody, but then I can gladly share with you. In the Springbok, Jake doing waves as well. There is a walk in the park, and I think the guys will laugh about it. And it was written on the program. And I'm thinking the walk in the park will be just a player goes up there in the park on their own time, But what I did not do is to ask the manager, ask the players, what guys, what is walk in the park? But then the walk in the park is to prepare the moves. And I jump out and then the guys left and they're thinking, I know the walk in the park. I didn't ask about the walk in the park. And I'm arriving, I was a bit late for that walk in the park. So that's how nervous I was. I was thinking about the game, but there was other items that took place. And I met Brian in the lift. I said, Brian, what's walk in the park? I said, Tim, walk in the park is where we walk the drills. And then Jake said, Tim, I understand. You're nervous, but don't worry. And we've got a match to go. So I was pretty nervous to arrive late on that walk in the park, thinking on my side, it's just my personal walk is my me time. So I think those are the part that I was pretty nervous.
Tim, I don't know if you've read Thando Manana's autobiography. I'm going to include a link, an affiliate link to that book in the comments section. But Thando mentioned that on the 2000 Springbok tour, when he went through his Springbok initiation, he found the process, especially as a Xhosa man, he found the process to be insulting to his culture. I'm keen to hear from you, what was your process like and how did you experience it?
I think on my part, it was when in England, I think Brian van Rooyen was, thank to him, was to stand up. I think it was when I say thank for him as a leader, to be bold and saying, guys, we have to transform. So, and then he gave, capping the players that played on in Wales. And it was I think it was a matter of, there was a change of Jake. I think in terms of the initiation, it's up to the culture that is set by the coach and then the players buying in. I think 2000, when Thando was there, it was very different from mine. I think I received a very welcoming, but then also saying, Tim, you've just played and you came out of the wave. So I was more worried about the game I just played, whereas I was being kept. And it was, I think on my part, I never had any bad experience understanding and respecting what Thando wrote. And then on my part was that what was done, because every time, Peter, you must have speak with honesty and say, how did you feel? I was welcomed by the guys, and it was just a session, the beer, and I think things changed with Jake. I think Jake tried to set up a professional environment. And I must say, he was bold in saying, the only part I'm here, guys, I'm going to win the World Cup. Are you with me? You either come into the bus or you're going to fall on the bus. I want a professional environment. And the other side show, he didn't worry more about. I think also Adolf Peterson, his rest, his soul rest in peace. In terms of Adolf was also the teacher. I think things changed depending on the manager and the coach. I think the team, the management team which was there, they were only worried about being the world best of team in the world and saying, guys, you are with me or not with me. So yeah, so I think that I received a very welcoming beer and congratulations, and they would clap, and then there was not a session specifically on my side, because I have to be detailed and think back and say, well, I mustn't follow who says what, and say, well, what was done on me, and it was an outstanding experience.
Earlier you mentioned Chester Williams and he was a role model to you. In 2004, now you were in that position where you were a role model, especially to young black kids growing up, because even at the time, as you say, things had begun to change, but there still were not a lot of black players in the team like we see today. I'm keen to hear, how much pressure did you feel that you were under to perform?
Well, it was pressure, but then mostly it's a pressure that you apply to yourself, not to other people, the spectators, because first you have to believe that, are you good enough? Then there is that you want to excel, because as I go back to Chester Williams, 1995, watching the Springbok playing, and I was 14 years. I didn't know how to play rugby, and I took upon myself as saying, well, one day I want to wear the jersey similar that Madiba was wearing on that day. And what it happened was that, I'm representing a brand and Chester, and I know that everybody wants to be a Springbok. And then I had to work hard. And I knew there were lots of people, lots of young kids in the rural where I'm coming from, rural Transkei, saying, well, we are having a Springbok as well. And then realizing that, yes, it's pressure, but it's something that I put upon myself and saying, I must perform to be given another opportunity and given another chance. And because if you tend to worry about what people say, but you have to focus on yourself in whatever you do, that, okay, I must be comfortable. And I think that was the taste of professionalism. I was given opportunity to put my hand up and say, well, you played the first test, Tim. Maybe there'll be much more to come, but time will tell. It's up to you to perform at the Bulls, the Pumas at that time.
Now, as you say, hopefully there were going to be more, but we know now, obviously, that was not the case. Even so, let's be honest, there are many kids growing up in South Africa. I would have been one of them, dreaming of playing for the Springboks. Now, obviously, in my case, I had no talent, so it never happened. But in many other cases, there might be guys that we've seen, like, say, Victor Matfield or Percy Montgomery, where they play 100 tests for the Springboks. Another guy might only play 10 tests or 1 test, or in your case, it was only just a few minutes, like 10 minutes or whatever. So it's never a case of, if you make it, that you're going to play 100 tests. It might only be one day or one experience. What is your advice to youngsters?
Well, coming in, the young advice and say, well, to a young kid growing up in, I grew up in the rural Transkei. At that time, it's the Eastern Cape. And one must have a goal and have a vision. And that Springbok, for me, was that big dream and that vision. And I was, as I said, I was 14 years old when I said, I want to play there. And then I said, well, it woke me up. So, okay, Tim, if you want to play there, what do you do to go closer? I had to identify, have a strategy for myself and say, well, how would I be selected in the better team that perform to get me in the Springbok? So we have this sort of a set up a future board. So where do you see yourself as a young kid in the rural area or in the suburb? Where do you see yourself? How am I going to go there? How am I going to get there? What do I do every day to make me closer to my goal? And it was, I'll just search briefly, Peter. I was in the rural Transkei. I moved to Coxhead College, a Grishal School, African school. But what I wanted to go there is to play rugby. From Coxhead College, I went to the Natal under 18, Cravenwick, and as well. Now I'm a Cravenwick player. Out of the school, there was no other Cravenwick player from the school. Then, well, I'm good enough to say I moved to Amtata, Coxhead, Cravenwick from Coxhead. Well, what the next stage is to be a Springbok. So how do I go to the under 21s Natal? Let me move closer. And then I went to the Sharks Academy. So it was a strategy where my way, I knew exactly my path, because my parents care less that I wanted to play Springbok. They had I think my father is an Army General. Said, well, you're wasting my time, you're wasting my money. You must make sure that you play the Springbok, or I'm taking you to the naval base in Samoa's town. You'll be a naval officer as well. Hell no, I'm gonna leave somebody's dream. I'm gonna leave my dream, because my father wanted me to put me in the army. I wanna do something different. I don't wanna walk into his shadow. I wanna create my own shadow, so other people to walk in, which is other young kids in the rural Transkei, rural areas, to say it's possible. So I had my own mission, and when that mission was achieved, I said, well, I can do everything possible, which I put my mind in. So that's what, when I say the Springbok jersey capping was a life-changing for me, because I realized that when you put your mind into something, and I put my mind to something, I can achieve it. And it's a matter of having that vision. And I live by saying that it's possible, but you have to think about it, map it up, and so I have that mind map and the future board.
Tim, the Springbok career as we said, just the one test match in 2004. But then after that, you continued playing for the Bulls, and then you ended up working for the Bulls. Tell me about that.
Peter, I think it was an opportunity where I realized after breaking my neck at the Bulls and playing, I think it was against the Lions, I'm sure, 12th of August 2006. And I know the day, I know the date. And when I went to the Bulls and telling them, which is now Baden van Graan and Henneke Meyer, Ian Swart, as the guys, all I wanted was being a Springbok, like it or not, Peter. That's what I told them. And it's time for me to walk away and from playing. It's time for me to walk away because it was a matter of understanding that I've reached my goal of being a Springbok. Now it's either I go back, and lucky enough I had a backup. I studied sports science and administration and life after sport. So it was something before playing sport that I have to prepare for life after rugby. And I'm glad, I'll be happy to learn another avenue of sport. But with playing performance, having a neck injury, I'm ready to walk away. And Henneke Meyer himself, which I'll always be grateful for, and Baden van Graan, Ian Swart is like, Tim, you can't leave. You've got such a wealth of experience with you as a professional player. You be part of us as we build the Blue Bulls, as we build the structures, get started as a manager for under 21s, under 19s. So that was an opportunity of a lifetime as well. The way I was given a chance to say, can I do it? And I studied sport management, and as well, and that was an opportunity as well of, I can say, it's up to me to prove myself that I'm part of the system that I understand, which was the Bulls. And I was there with mentoring the young players coming in, black players coming in, and being their father and saying, guys, get in. That's how the Bulls work. And we only think to be the best team in the world. And the Bulls at that time, I think 2006, 2007, and they won as well. The Super Rugby trophy, 2009, 2010, 2011, and the back-to-back. And then I think those are the experiences of how to be a professional, because you start with yourself. You lead yourself before you lead others, Peter. So that's how I picked up from sport, that you are captain of yourself, and before you captain other people, then everything will just fall into place.
And tell me what happened in terms of your career after the Bulls. What have you been up to?
Well, after the Bulls, I had to follow my passion. I think I'm a person that always follow his passion. I was while I was playing, I was in property investment business. And thank you to Ashwin Valemsa. I got to share a room with him at the Springboks. And we shared his portfolio of housing. And as well, one thing I want to do when I leave out of this camp, 2004, 2005, I bought my first flat in Sandton. And that was a start. That was the start of my property portfolio. They ended well. After Bulls, I had an opportunity to join the Mission Holding Group as an strategic partner to Charles van der Walt, and where we are developing in terms of creating a city outside another city in East London. And that's why I relocate, because I'm living my passion, I'm living my dream. I have to do everything and making sure that works. So I'm in property business, putting up a high performance center in East London. I've got a site and the hospital. So it's the land is giving us the opportunity, myself in charge, and say we can dream more, but then we have to make sure that our dream is achieved in every year. So so we are having 5,000 houses currently, residential development, the income groups, mixed income groups. So I'm in I can say I raise capital for a living now. I raise money to build and change people's lives in terms of what size of the house they want, and then we're able to tailor make and draw and build it.
Just before we say goodbye, the trivia question, let's have a look at that again. Who captained the Springboks in the first test against New Zealand in 1994? Tim, do you by any chance know the answer?
Well, it's Front Row.
Oh, Front Row was the Springbok captain at the time, but he was actually injured for the first test. Yeah, so the correct answer is actually Tiaan Strauss. Tim, I just wanted to say thank you very much for being a guest on Front Row Rugby today, and it was lovely having you on, and I hope that in the future we can have you on again.
No, thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me, as I said.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, we had former Springbok captain Tiaan Strauss with us. You can go and have a look at that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, we will have 2007 World Cup winner JP Peterson. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, why not tackle the like button? You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content from Front Row Rugby. See you next time.